found in flames. This right here is an embodied form of the violet ray spectrum.
Tap in and tune in Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern. Live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Grand Rising with ChristoLight, your sacred space for discovering the Ascended Masters in crystal healing. Ashe.
The media and the mechanisms for distributing information today are tools, and like most tools, if placed in the wrong hands, they can be used as weapons. One of these weapons is propaganda, so we should take a close look at how powerful it can be and how hard it is at times to detect with an untrained eye. In 1928, a man named Edward Bernays, who was considered to be the father of public relations, published a book revealing his ingenious methods for shaping public opinion using the available media at the time: newspapers, magazines, black and white films, and radio. Television was something that was just being experimented with and wouldn't become a major medium until over 20 years later in the 1950s. Bernays was the nephew of Sigmund Freud, the famous psychologist, which may explain how he himself became such an expert in psychology. His knowledge of how to influence large numbers of people using the media was so far ahead of its time that still today, almost 100 years later, Bernays' methods are used as the standard operating procedure for advertisers, activists, and governments. The American Tobacco Company, the manufacturer of the Lucky Strike brand, hired him in 1929 to help promote cigarettes, and as a result of his marketing campaign, he is largely credited with making smoking seem cool. What he did was hire a group of beautiful women to light up cigarettes while they were marching in New York City's Easter Sunday parade, since women smoking at the time was taboo. He then sent out a press release claiming they lit up, quote, torches of freedom to support women's rights. The New York Times published an article the next day with the headline, quote, group of girls puff cigarettes as gesture of freedom. He had created a self-fulfilling prophecy by duping newspapers into portraying smoking women as part of the growing women's rights movement, when in reality, it was just a marketing ploy by a tobacco company. Bernays is also the man responsible for the tradition of men buying women diamonds as a symbol of love and marriage. As you know, at least in the United States, the tradition of proposing marriage to a woman must be done with a diamond ring, and every Christmas, Valentine's Day, and Mother's Day, we are bombarded by advertisements about buying diamonds for the women in our lives. This cultural norm, however, was artificially created by Edward Bernays after the De Beers Diamond Company, in reality a monopoly, hired him to promote diamonds as the standard symbol of love. Before Bernays' scheme was launched, engagement and wedding rings were just a gold band, but using his techniques of social conditioning, he was able to brainwash men and women into believing that a large diamond ring was needed in order to propose marriage or to show a woman that a man loves her. When we look into Bernays' methods, it becomes stunningly clear just how powerful they are and how candid he was about this power in his book. He wrote, quote, those who manipulate the unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. We are governed, our minds molded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men we have never heard of. In almost every act of our lives, whether in the sphere of politics or business, in our social conduct or our ethical thinking, we are dominated by a relatively small number of persons who understand the mental processes and social patterns of the masses. It is they who pull the wires that control the public mind, who harness social forces and contrive new ways to bind and guide the world. He also admitted, quote, whatever of social importance is done today, whether in politics, finance, manufacture, agriculture, charity, education, or other fields, must be done with the help of propaganda. Propaganda is the executive arm of the invisible government. This invisible government, he says, tends to be concentrated in the hands of the few because of the expense of manipulating the social machinery which controls the opinions and habits of the masses. The expensive machinery he was referring to are the printing presses and film studios, as well as the large costs associated with producing and distributing newspapers and radio broadcasts at the time, which was so expensive that only a handful of companies could afford to be in those businesses. It wasn't until fairly recently, with the creation of computers, the internet, smartphones, and social media, that this monopoly has changed. Although the multi-billion-dollar mainstream media conglomerates still have enormous influence and control over the creation of content and its distribution, and are constantly trying to adapt and hold on to what was once an ironclad grip on the industry. As Ben Bagdikian, the former dean of the University of California, Berkeley's Graduate School of Journalism, points out in his book, The New Media Monopoly, quote, "The possibilities for mutual promotion among all their various media is the basic reason the Big Five, now actually the Big Six, Comcast, News Corporation, Time Warner, Disney, Viacom, and CBS, have become major owners of all kinds of media. For example, actors and actresses in a conglomerate's wholly owned movie studio can appear on the same company's television and cable networks. Photographs of newly minted celebrities can dominate the covers of the firm's wholly owned magazines, and those celebrities can be interviewed on the firm's wholly owned radio and television talk shows. The conglomerate can commission an author from its wholly owned book publishing firm to write a biography or a purported autobiography of the new stars, which in turn is promoted on the firm's other media." End quote. He continues saying that the major media socialize every generation of Americans, whether the viewers and listeners are conscious of it or not. They're being, quote, educated in role models, in social behavior, in their early assumptions about the world into which they will venture, and in what to assume about their unseen millions of fellow citizens. George Orwell warned of this same propaganda power in his classic novel 1984, when he said, quote, "All the beliefs, habits, tastes, emotions, mental attitudes that characterize our time are really designed to sustain the mystique of the party and prevent the true nature of present-day society from being perceived." The technical term for what they're doing is called agenda setting. They magnify selected stories and topics through their constant coverage and endless panel discussions about every little detail. Talking for hours on end about the stories creates a self-fulfilling prophecy by building certain instances into major issues, and by treating them as if they are major issues when they're not, and getting people to talk about them and think about them so much, then they become major issues. As television became part of everyone's lives, a study was conducted during the 1968 presidential election called the Chapel Hill Study, which showed a strong correlation between what people thought were the most important
Grand rising and grand day. Welcome in, everyone. Boy, oh boy, are we going to be going down the rabbit hole today? Not only are we going down the rabbit hole, but we are taking all the covers off and we are exposing, and we are going to bring transparency and the vulnerability of what we can share and what we have from our knowledge and experience on MkUltra. I know MkUltra is trending right now in the conversations around the world. I know that we currently have congressional hearings that are taking place talking about the history of MkUltra. And I gotta say, what a time to be alive. Whether you're political or not political, the fact that this bipartisan conversation is happening in Congress surrounding human history, and not just politics, but human history, crimes against humanity, is what's being talked about in these rooms. It's just another sign that we're shifting as a collective. And if you haven't watched any of the congressional hearing, it's eye-opening. Like I said, political or non-political. And I'm not a political person. I do not affiliate with any parties. But when I'm able to see something and see it with a divine silver lining of signs, symbolism, and symptoms of change, then I'm able to see that and I'm open to seeing it. They talked about things that I've known for years, as well as many of us. They talked about the Nazi scientists coming over to America after World War. They talked about the techniques that they brought over. They talked about the known history of MkUltra being used on different civilizations around the world. They even taught it being used on figures like Charles Manson and others, like Hollywood, actors, musicians. They're all under MkUltra as well. So we're going to give you guys a great idea of what MkUltra is and how it's been utilized on us as human collective. And not only just become aware of it and realize how it's been used, but to also understand how you can protect yourself, how you can navigate, and how you can empower yourself through these times as we continue to change. So with that said, it's going to be a deep episode, and don't be surprised if it goes on for about 2 hours, because we're going to be doing our usual screen share text. We'll be bringing up ascensionglossary.com, where we're going to dive into the details of what control looks like as a whole, as well as the different ways and the different styles of mind control that they use and how to avoid it in this world. And then on top of that, we'll talk about the specific timeline and history of MK and the impact it's had on our history. We'll have some videos to go along with that. And also going to be joined by our good brother, Cricket the Gift, as he our special last minute guest joining. We are celebrating our 1-year anniversary of Grand Rising with ChristoLight today. So today marks officially the 1-year anniversary of live Tuesdays, Wednesdays, days with you guys for Grand Rising with ChristoLight, this series. Gotta say, a beautiful series. Talked to 15 time matrix, the orders, blue flame, the violet flame, the gold order. We talked about many different ascended masters and who they are. And then we've also talked about different star families and different aspects. Cricket says I'm lagging over here. Well, just bear with the technology today. All right. So with that being said, this is about to be an episode. That's for sure. I'm going to go ahead and bring up our brother Crift, our special guest of this episode. Welcome, brother. How are you? You're on mute over there.
I think I was muted. Grand Rising, everybody. You know, I'm doing pretty good over here. You know, this is one of the topics that I'm really passionate about. I talk about it a lot in my music. So definitely wanted to come in and give my insights on this one.
Yeah, no doubt. So before we even dive in and get into the finer details of everything, what what kind of like what initially comes up for you when it comes to this topic of MK Ultra?
And so, with MK Ultra, like a lot of people think, um, of like back in the day, like back when they brought the scientists over. A lot of people think that like they ended it and all of that, like in the 70s, excuse me, 70s, 80s, things of that nature. But no, it's MK Ultra is still actively going on to this day, which is a lot of what a lot of people don't understand. And I just want people to be aware and acknowledge, the types of things that they are doing to keep us under the system of control, which they were testing it back then, back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and all of that stuff. But they pretty much got a good understanding of how it works now. And now it's so subtle that nobody even knows that it's going on. But it is actively being done to us at this time in history right now.
Absolutely. And it comes in many different varieties and ways. Like a really easy example to give people to see where that type of propaganda or mind control is taking place is um, dogmatic religions. So dogmatic religions, you hear in the news, oh well, they said that we needed to go to war with Iran because Jesus was coming back and we need to purify the earth. That was a literal news headline back at the beginning of that whole little Iran situation in the last year.
Right.
So stuff like that is the propaganda that they utilize through mind control to ignite and trigger and stimulate fight or flight reactions as well as trauma responses in our human psyches so that we just act off that reaction. We act off of that impulsive trigger. And this is how they get us to go into war. They stir up propaganda, they make false enemies, and then they get you so brainwashed into believing what they're telling you that now you are conditioned to believe, oh, they're all the enemy over there. Fuck anyone that looks like them, It becomes a whole entire programming. It's not just like a simple, oh, I don't like this. No, it becomes a whole program where now your senses and your perception is so manipulated that now anytime you sense, smell, see, hear anything about Muslim or Iran or Iraq, you're triggered and you go into a fight or flight response.
Yeah,
That's how deep this propaganda gets.
right. There's like it's like a whole system that they have behind it. It's the divide and conquer tactic, to where they, okay, pit you against whoever it is that they can, white against black, a Democrat against Republican, Muslim versus Jew versus Christian, like any kind of way that they can figure out. Bigger guys against smaller guys, bigger women against smaller, any kind of way that they can figure out to make you compete against each other, to cause hate in between each other, that you're dividing you. And if you're divided, then it's more easier for them to control your thoughts and your actions and things. They're like, oh, well, this person is like this. Aren't you better than that person? And then you're like, oh, well, I am better than that person. It's a whole thing. I remember one of the things that made me actually like realize that MkUltra was like a real thing back when reality TV first kind of started. I moved out to Vegas and I was trying to get on a reality TV show because, I'm thinking reality, these are real people that are just doing real things. No, those are all actors, and you have to have an acting portfolio, profile, and everything like that. You have to be a certain type of archetype in order for them to put you on there, because if they can't control you or your actions, then they're not going to allow you on that show. And that's even with reality TV. And reality TV is not actual real people. Well, I mean, real people. I mean, like, they're still actors. Like, I don't mean like obviously they're real people, but you know what I mean. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's actually a great example of reality TV shows, especially because I was big when I was a teenager growing up, and just like you were saying, you know, they basically use these figures and they use these celebrities as kind of like what we call industry plants. I know you know what industry plants are, but industry plants are basically actors, or they're paid off criminals even. Like, there'll be people that are in prison for a long time that they'll go scoop up out of prison, and then they'll become a paid actor and use them in their music agenda. But yeah, you can tell that the reality TV shows are kind of like planted and staged, because most of the time what they're promoting is negative energy behaviors, if you want to say. And that's like, you know, just developing toxic relationships, you know, not understanding how to have a respectful relationship and, you know, actually build a relationship with someone, but to ultimately just live that bachelorette life where you create no deep relationship, everything is shallow, you're just transmitting energy, you're exchanging energies, and it creates a broken system, and it gives us really, really poor habits and really poor programming to follow and to idolize when it comes to having relationships in this world. Dina said COVID was a perfect example for population control. Absolutely. Great example of MkUltra.
Definitely. They use COVID not only to unalive millions of people, but they also used it as a tactic to shut down cities because of the tunnel systems that they have going under the cities. And that's a whole nother topic that we could get into about what they're doing with the kids. I have a song out called Save the Children right now that tells you all about it if you want to hear about that.
Grand day, Rhonda.
Grand day, Rhonda.
Good to see you, Queen. Welcome in, everyone. So we got 7 in the house. Thank you all for the likes. Please like this content, share it, boost the algorithm. Let's get this information and knowledge out there to our collective. You know, this is important knowledge. We need to know this stuff so we can move on. We can collapse it through our conscious awareness and empower ourselves. We got to help our brothers and sisters be aware of what's going on and what's been going on so we can accelerate this process and grow.
It's like I always say and tell everybody. Oh yeah, yeah, you're definitely right, Dina. Definitely right. That's one of the things I'd say all the time, like when I was talking about the divide and conquer that they used, is I tell people, like, we did not become the top of the so-called food chain by being divided. Like, we got here, you know, working together and loving one another and helping each other out. And then at some point, like Dina said, for the rich, we're just calling that for now, and, you know, they said, well, if we're going to make this money, like, we can't have them helping each other, so let's divide them. And that's how they created those hate mongering propaganda that they push, and those divisive agendas.
No doubt. It's very intentional, guys. This is not by accident. None of this is by accident, especially about what we're about to expose to you throughout this episode. So keep that in mind as we're going through this. You know, it's all good to think in a positive and to make believe that everyone has the same intentions as us and that everyone wants the best for us. But in this third dimension, where there is extreme duality, we are subject to all of the polarities to be experienced. So that means there are beings that have nothing but purity and peace, but then there's beings that have nothing but anger, control, and greed. And there's in between. So know where you are, know thyself, understand that we are inhabiting a third dimensional maker. And while being a part of this, and remember, of course, it's an illusion in the end, it's an illusion of a creation. But while we're in it, we're in it. We're in this living process. So just be aware, you know, there is free will choice. And they will get you in so many fine details and so many fine ways of consenting and not even being aware that you have the free will to consent as well.
You definitely have to be discerning
So
because
if you haven't been able, or you don't feel.
I was gonna say you definitely have to be discerning because although we have free will, you have to realize that they are actively manipulating your free will. So what you think is a decision of yours is really not a decision of yours. You need to go deep inside yourself and find out who you really are, because believe it or not, everything that you know has been forced upon you, taught to you, whatever, what have you. So you have to go inside yourself and find out who you really are. Even your name was given to you. Just remember that.
Oh boy. Even to the level where they make us believe that, you know, we have to go to school, we have to go to work, we have to do all these things. And if we don't do it, then we're just a useless human and that we're not productive for society. When really you can just create your own way. We can create our own way in the moment and just continue on from the moment. And that's the real power. It's being present and knowing that you can make a choice and then keep on making choices from that moment. And you don't have to listen to the outside world or be influenced by it. So, yeah, it looks like our sister Phoenix is about to join us. So before she hops on with us, I wanted to share some clips from the congressional hearing, just so you guys can hear some of the facts and some of the knowledge that was talked about when it comes to MkUltra. And we'll be talking about it as well from our own perspectives. So enjoy this. And I'm not one to encourage politics or any of this nature. Remember, this is about crimes against humanity, and this is about the universe of life. And if you are interested to do your own research and do your own due diligence, feel free to check it out.
Stephen Kinzer is a historian, journalist, and author of Poisoner-in-Chief, Sidney Gottlieb, and the CIA's Search for Mind Control. Tom O'Neill is an investigative journalist who authored Chaos, Charles Manson, the CIA, and the Secret History of the 60s. And Elizabeth Genexi, did I say that right, ma'am? Genexi is an independent consultant and former senior program officer at the National Institute of Health. We look forward to hearing what you have to say today on this important subject. Pursuant to Committee Rules 9G, the witnesses will please stand and raise their right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Let the record show that the witnesses answered in the affirmative. Thank you. You may now take your seat. We appreciate you being here today. Let me remind the witnesses that we have read your opening statements, and it will appear in full in the hearing record. Please limit your oral statements to 5 minutes. However, if it does go over, we will not be gaveling you out. As a reminder, please press the button on the microphone in front of you so that it is illuminated and members can hear you. When you begin to speak, the light in front of you again will turn green. After 4 minutes, the light will turn yellow, and when the red light comes on, that means that your 5 minutes has expired, and we will ask you to please wrap it up. I would now like to recognize Stephen Kinzer for his opening statement.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Let me begin by expressing my gratitude to this task force for confronting the enormous issue of overclassification of government documents and the culture of secrecy that enables it. I'm especially gratified by your interest in MkUltra, the project the CIA carried out through the 1950s in an attempt to find the secret of mind control. MkUltra was one of the most secret government programs in American history. The chemist who directed it, Sidney Gottlieb, lived in total anonymity. My book, Poisoner in Chief, may be the most complete account of MkUltra that exists in public, but I'm painfully aware that I have discovered only a small portion of what MkUltra was and what Sidney Gottlieb did. In 1951, the CIA hired Gottlieb and directed him to launch what became MkUltra. Gottlieb believed that in order to find a way to implant a new mind into someone's brain, you first had to find a way to destroy the mind that was in there already. In its search for ways to destroy a human mind and body, MkUltra conducted the most extreme experiments on human beings that have ever been carried out by a US government agency. By any standard, they qualify as medical torture. These experiments took place in prisons, clinics, and safe houses in the United States, in Europe, in Asia, and even in Latin America. Officers of MkUltra were authorized to travel to foreign countries, preferably those under formal or informal US occupation, and ask the local CIA station to provide them with expendables, human beings who would not be missed if they disappeared. Gottlieb had what amounted to a license to kill issued by the US government. Neither the number of MkUltra victims nor the number of those who were experimented to death is known. Gottlieb, as a result of this license to kill, might have been the most powerful unknown American of the 20th century. Some information about MkUltra spilled out during the 1970s, but senior CIA officers had intentionally let Gottlieb operate without supervision, so they were able to claim that they knew nothing about his excesses. This was a way for the CIA to deny its institutional role in MkUltra and to portray it misleadingly as the product of one man's sadism or excessive zeal. Investigating MkUltra is challenging because when Gottlieb and his mentor Richard Helms left the CIA in 1973, they illegally ordered that its records be destroyed. Soon afterwards, under DCI Stansfield Turner, a CIA analyst, as you pointed out, Madam Chairman, discovered a cache of MkUltra documents hidden among financial records. Turner credited that analyst with doing a very diligent job of Sherlock Holmesing. That same diligence, I believe, could bring results today. One of the great mysteries of MkUltra has to do with the death in 1953 of an MkUltra scientist, Frank Olson, who had announced his intention to quit the project. His plunge from a New York hotel room was described in the press as the suicide of an Army scientist. He was not an Army scientist. He worked for the CIA, and evidence suggests that his death may not have been a suicide. So there could be hidden documents that could illuminate this case. I would also point out that in addition to searching for unknown documents, this committee could do a tremendous service by simply asking for the end of redactions on the documents that we now have. There are reams of documents about MkUltra that have heavy sections redacted. In the 1970s, this was justified by the argument that it had only been 20 years since these terrible things had happened and revealing details might affect national security. Now 70 years have passed. that argument can no longer be valid. So I would urge this committee to try to fill out all the blank spaces in the documents that we have, because we know that is there. This task force could also consider trying to determine whether some new incarnation of MkUltra exists today. When the main phase of MkUltra drew to a close in the early 1960s, Sidney Gottlieb concluded that it had failed. That in fact, there is no such thing as mind control. Even if he was right, however, he may have been right only at that time. In the many decades since then, there have been enormous advances in cyber technology, in artificial intelligence, in neuroscience. Covert agencies may have access now to tools for mind control that Sidney Gottlieb could not even have imagined. It may well have been true in 1963 that mind control is a myth, but whether it's still true is uncertain. And that question of whether mind control might now be possible under our new circumstances is something that has presumably occurred to scientists who work for secret services, including our own. This task force has a chance to connect the past to the future. A renewed effort to find MkUltra documents from the 1950s and to fill out the redactions of those that have been released might shed new light on how the CIA operated during that period. It could also inform a new inquiry into whether any mind control projects are now underway inside the US security apparatus. That might help prevent the emergence of a 21st century MkUltra that could be even more destructive than the original. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kinzer. I now recognize Tom O'Neill.
So yeah, that's just a little bit of the congressional hearing that took place for the MkUltra. And as you can see, they talk a little bit about the timeline, some of the hidden facts, some of the known aspects of it as well. And MkUltra is something that is not too hidden. I mean, it's definitely known in our history. You think about Operation Paperclip from the CIA. Operation Paperclip was like the beginning to that. And that is when the Nazis came over to America, and the scientists and other members of the Nazis turned into American citizens, basically, and they started influencing the politics, the government, and the science that was being used in America. And they even talk about that in the congressional hearing as well. And then when you find out about just all of the experiments that have been happening, whether it's medical, whether it's through media, or whether it's through food, a lot of it is tied into this right here that we're touching on. A lot of the things that we're seeing with like the chemtrails, the poisoning in the food, the fluoride in the tap water, the ways of eugenics, things of that nature, a lot of that stems from the Nazis bringing that over to America after the war. And then that stems all the way back into draconian lineages and draconian ways of life through mind control, population, depopulation, and things of that nature. Looks like our sister Phoenix is back with us. I'm gonna go ahead and welcome her on. Welcome, sister. Good to see you.
Good to see you guys. Wow, MkUltra on the mic tonight.
Welcome, welcome.
MkUltra on the mic tonight. MkUltra on the mic tonight. We got MkUltra on the mic tonight. MkUltra on the mic tonight. The greatest trick of MkUltra is to make you think that it's never not been happening and that it's ended. You know, this is just the unveiling of a trickster game that's been going on and just like repeating cycles and willing participants that are consenting their mind, body, and soul complex to demonic entity control system, negative alien agenda experiment on the human race. And yeah, we went from like eternal immortal beings to, am I going to get cancer and die? And how am I going to pay my bills? And do I have enough food to eat for me and my family? Like how do we go from royal to poverty? We're talking planetary, not just personal. It's not one man being rich, because we're all one thing, right? So, wow, it's kind of crazy. All of this information is coming up. I was just watching a video right before this, and then I saw you were jumping on. I'm like, oh, it's so timely. Just reading through the records of what they were doing. And you know what I saw? I watched an old video with the Army military in like maybe the 40s or 50s, and they were teaching about to their army frequency modulation manipulation. He was literally showing how sound works with analog and digital. And basically they were teaching Cold War machinery, which is sound and wave manipulation, electromagnetic frequencies. These are the real nuclear weapons. They're very invisible and people have no idea that they operate. So that small group of people in 1950 was just to say, oh yeah, we can work with frequencies, we can wipe memory, we can keep someone stuck at a certain gate of consciousness where they can't perceive beyond. But as soon as you know that there is a beyond, that's when you start peeling back those layers and like chipping away at the limitations of who we are, where we come from, not being a victim to the emotions, because everyone's manipulated by their sacral, their emotion, their astral, their hunger, their lust. And so it's like when you can overcome that hump, you can start to come into really remembering and not being a slave to their games. That's why pornography is so popular right now, because they know they can manipulate the system with it. It's a mass control program right now, keeping the life force from ringing the bell. You know, up here, the land of milk and honey, to bring you up to the higher planes where you can't be affected by these little games, implants. Oh, yeah. Anyways, nice to see y'all.
Ashe. Nice to see you as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Very insightful. And then I also want to say, like, a lot of people don't know.
Little screen share information for us in detail of MkUltra, the timeline, and give you guys all just a good perspective of you know what this really is for those of us curious on you know how did this come about and what kind of things happened and where this took place and how could this also be currently taking place as well in our general collective. Uh-oh, they got me, guys. They got me.
Yeah, you're still lagging pretty bad over there.
Come on now. Come on now. Come on, share screen. You got it. Here we go. Boy, I find it so funny it's acting like this today.
Maybe you were supposed to roll into what you were gonna say, Cricket. It all cut out, like it all glitched at the same time.
You guys can hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I was saying was, a lot of people don't know about the scientists that they brought over to America from Nazi Germany. Hitler was actually obsessed with Hermeticism and mind control, and that's what those scientists were working with over in Germany, and that's the reason why they brought him over here to America, because they wanted to find out what information Hitler had found out about mind control, and that's how all of this even started.
Wow, and it was a war, though, like these are the real wars that were going on. Like when you study Cold War, any of these, or Holocaust or things like that, it's all about human experimentation. It's never ended. They just kind of show it to you like it looks so physical and abusive, but it's so unnoticeable now. The way they're working with the information, with the implants, with the synthetic mind control, synthetic thoughts, synthetic impulses, totally playing humans like a video game from their technologies, if you are susceptible to the manipulation on that level. Purification is the way through this. Purification is the turbo spin. Purification is the, celestial fires, where you're just coming into full wholeness. You're not needing anyone or anything outside of you. You're in full wholeness, full completion. Or you leave those doors open to be infiltrated by their game. Know thyself is such an important part of the game. The light body, the rainbow body.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying earlier, with like you have to go inside yourself and know who you are, because everything that you know was taught to you. Like you none of your thoughts that you believe that you have are actually yours, unless you have gone through on that path of going inside yourself and seeing what it is that you really want and you really desire. Your whole life was built on what other people told you. Like what was it said, that when you're born, you're given a name, a race, and a religion, and a belief system that you just run with your entire life. So every thought, everything that you do was something that was given to you. It's not actually yours. So you must go inside yourself and see what it is that you
were
really
born
want.
into the satanic ritual.
And given a number to categorize what part of the ritual you were susceptible to. That's what birth certificate.
You're born into it. You're jabbed right away. You're jabbed. You're circumcised, likely. And are you here?
Oh, there we go. I think we're back. No, we lost them again.
Wow. Oof. Yeah, healing the fracture of the soul. Because a lot of times with this MkUltra, what they did is they fractured your soul, and you might not even know it. So it's like putting back together the pieces of something like that have been shattered or separated. And a lot of this is by the way of implants. And it gets crazy to consider that this is the reality of what we're operating in, but it makes the most sense to me. And even if you could take this back to, I don't know if I ever say his name right, Gurdjieff, but he talks about the idea of this kunda buffer. It's like an implant. It's like an organ at the base of people's spine that keeps their kundalini from going up. It's like installed in the human, keeping them locked in that slavery level.
Gee.
Are you back?
I don't know. Let's
We're
see.
shutting you down.
Let's see. Yeah, this is a little. This is interesting.
What's going on in the comments over here? You know, that's the other thing about this MkUltra too, is all of these music festivals and all of this like big movement with psychedelics has been ordained, you know, and just like the growth in cannabis and it being more legalized and available, it's like there's a ability to control what's working through these technologies. And these medicines are being used as manipulators. That's really what psychedelics in the historical view have been about. They've used them for TV watching. Well, now everyone has a TV in their hand.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Your phone.
I'll come out of the jungle sometimes and I'll see everyone's just walking around with their phone recording everything. And I'm like, oh shit, where are we?
Your smartphone.
The phone is an implant. We need to really recognize our relationship with it.
Yes, because now not anybody watch TV, but you have your more advanced MkUltra all
It's your
day.
implant.
It's your phone.
Yeah. It's always with you.
down to the car that you drive, and then, like now they say that you have to wear your seatbelt. Seatbelts are only effective if you're going 35 miles an hour or under. Anything higher than that, a seatbelt can be fatal. Yet they put this tone, this sound frequency in your car that'll, this like Chinese torture, that beep beep beep, to make you put your seatbelt on. Like it's ridiculously crazy what they do.
You know, it's crazy because I always say seatbelt is for density. It's for physical death. Like, I'm not here to die like that. That's not how I'm going out. I'm an eternal. I'm walking through this, you know, and so, yeah, it's interesting how it changes you and how they even put the laws of the wearing the seatbelt and the fear of like, you're going to die in a car accident, this constant level of anxiety of being careful because something bad's going to happen. That's all MkUltra. That's actually mind torture. People are like, oh, my adrenals, they keep me safe. My fear keeps me in safety. And I'm like, actually, no. When you connect to that eternal light again, you're not being controlled by fear. You're not being controlled by emotions. You're not being controlled by reactions. Nothing is playing video games with your energy system. And that's real sovereignty. You know, that's real energetic sovereignty, is when someone can't kill your vibe. When you give your power away to nothing, you know, and you can really hold that field. And we're being called to really put on this shield of righteousness, you could say. That is the only thing that brings you into an invincibility level here, is like that deep inner work, purification, and clarity.
Oh, shit. All right. Well, I'm here. I guess I'm not going to share screen, but I'll just go ahead and read it for you guys. And this is on britanica.com. It's a great website for finding out about, you know, hidden histories, as well as the tainted timelines, things of that nature. So you can find things about Tartaria and many others. But this is just going to give you guys, for everyone out there that is really curious about the full details of what MkUltra is and what are the very known times that it was utilized and the influence it had in our timeline from the world wars over to America into our modern time today. And you'll see a nice, clear connection as well. So between 1953 and 64 originally, the CIA conducted experiments using high doses of LSD and other drugs, hypnosis, electroshock, and sensory deprivation on subjects who often had no idea that they were part of a covert test. The ultimate goal was to find a way to erase the memory and then control the mind as a tool in fighting the Cold War. There are authors that have books about this, and in one of the books, journalist Stephen Kinzer called the program essentially a continuation of work that began in Japanese and Nazi concentration camps, in part because Nazi doctors and others who had worked in those environments were recruited to continue their research as part of the program. Fearing discovery, the CIA destroyed most records of the experiments in 1973, but details of the program later emerged through congressional and journalistic investigations. The program's beginnings. So the roots of MkUltra go back to the US President Harry Truman's administration when the CIA launched Project Bluebird, its original mind control program. Allen Dulles, who became the head of the CIA's covert operation in 1951, latched onto Bluebird. He sent an early memo to Frank Wisner, a senior officer who was helping to oversee the program, saying that he wanted to explore augmenting the usual integration methods by the use of drugs, hypnosis, shock, and etc. Under Dulles' leadership, the CIA began opening its secret prisons in West Germany and Japan, where it experimented on prisoners with no oversight. Advising this early research was General Walter Schreiber, the former Surgeon General of the Nazi Army, who had approved experiments at the Auschwitz and Dachau concentration camps. Dulles became convinced that the Soviet Union had already developed mind control tactics. There were rumors that the USSR could program people to make fake confessions and possibly train them to kill on command. Dulles saw the Bluebird research as increasingly urgent, and in August 1951, he ordered that the program be expanded and intensified. He renamed it Artichoke. Sidney Gottlieb, a chemist who had recently joined the CIA as its top drug expert, was tasked with the overseeing of this research. Gottlieb and his colleagues set about finding a drug that would act as a truth serum in investigations and would make it possible to reprogram people and then wipe their memories clear. Experimenting with LSD. Gottlieb learned that cocaine, heroin, and mescaline had failed in prior government experiments, so he turned to LSD. So note that in your mind there. Note that they mentioned here that there has been failed government experience before that with cocaine, heroin, and mescaline. So just note that in your journey. So 1953, he arranged from the CIA to spend $240,000 to buy the world's entire supply of the drug. The agency later arranged for pharmaceutical giant Eli Lilly and Company to replicate the formula, so it had an endless supply. Gottlieb distributed LSD to hospitals, clinics, and other institutions, asking them to give it to patients and see how they reacted. He did this through fake foundations. So many institutions carry out these experiments, and they never knew they were doing the work of the CIA. So that's another thing too, is cognitive infiltration. So they really love to infiltrate organizations. They like to masquerade as a helping foundation or a helping charity, things of that nature. But then behind closed doors, they're involved in these kind of practices. Just things to look for with your discernment when interacting with contracts, giving your consent to institutions, and things of that nature. So some of those who participated in the experiments amounted to a who's who of the 50s and 60s counterculture movements, including author Ken Kesey, poet Allen Ginsberg. It was also used heavily on prisoners, mentally ill people, and people experiencing addiction, people who could not fight back. In April 1953, the mind control program was expanded and intensified once again. It was given the name MkUltra, reflecting what Dulles called its ultra-sensitive nature. So in 1957, Whitey Bulger was incarcerated at the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary after being convicted of truck hijacking and armed robbery. Bulger would go on to become known as the leading organized crime boss in Boston, but in the late 1950s, he agreed to participate in an experiment that he was told was intended to cure schizophrenia. In exchange for participating, he and other incarcerated people would receive time off their sentences. As part of the experiment, the subjects were given LSD almost daily for 15 months. The program expanded over the next decade and came to include 149 sub-projects. At least 80 institutes, 44 universities were involved in some capacity. So note that as well. Note that all of these institutions and all of these places that supported this, that are still standing today, are tied to that history and are still around. And they're, who knows what they're doing at this point. So then, research methods and results. So despite its size and scope, the program operated in extreme secrecy. Fewer than half a dozen agency leaders knew about it at any given time. This meant that Gottlieb's power was essentially unchecked. He was allowed to bring in prisoners from across the United States and across the world and subject them to torture and other experiments. He was never expected to formally report on this work. And keep in mind, too, it says half dozen agency leaders. It doesn't say agencies as a whole, but agency leaders. And the reason why I bring this up is because Spirit is wanting me to show that, yes, you know, you may know some friends that are Freemasons and they're good people, but they're not part of the leadership. And the leadership, they have their own objectives. They have their own intentions that they're working with in that leadership position, quote unquote leadership. So they just wanted me to kind of bring that up. Like, you know, yeah, you hear about friends, you know, people that are lower level Freemasons and things like that. You hear about how they talk about doing things for donation and helping out communities, things like that. And that's what they're blanketing on the outside. You know, that's what they're setting up in the lower levels. And when it comes to these leaders, which they just said right here, you know, these leaders, they are of a select group that are knowing what's going on behind closed doors. So in the early 60s, Gottlieb was beginning to give up on it. He wrote in the 60s that there was no effective knockout pill, truth serum, and he had learned that through drugs, electroshock, and sensory deprivation and other abuse, it was possible to destroy a human mind, but not to open the wiped away mind to control by an outsider. The program wound down in 1963 and 64 and was replaced with a tamer project called MK Search. So you don't really talk about this, how it turned into MK Search. Destroying the evidence, 9 years later, most records of the program were destroyed. In late 1972, US President Richard Nixon told Richard Helms, the CIA director, that he would be replaced after the upcoming inauguration. Before Helms left office, he summoned Gottlieb for a meeting. They agreed that the MKUltra files would be purged to avoid public outrage likely to ensure that no one would be prosecuted. The chief of the CIA records bank balked at Helm's order to destroy the documents, so Ghalib drove to the facility in person. Ultimately, 7 boxes of MkUltra progress reports were shredded. Other files dealing with the program were later discovered, revealed the existence of MkUltra in 1974 in the New York Times story. 3 government investigations followed, but they were hampered by the destruction of the documents. No researchers were ever federally investigated. And that's a cycle. There ain't nothing new there. So let me see. It talks about this being involved in Korea and Vietnam. Oh, talks about cults. So religious cults for recruiting people when it comes to religious. And then it talks about 1960s when the hippie movement began, of the LSD being used through the CIA to help break up the movement. And then it also talks about the use of the LSD in ways that counterbalance of how that medicine can be used. And then lastly, it talks about our modern pop music and popular music and how they utilize different radio frequencies through Hollywood as well as radio and through music, and to ultimately be aware of that. Be aware of the psychological programming that you are tuning yourself to through your music and through your shows and through your media. You know, are you tapping into a Grand Rising with ChristoLight episode where we're helping you understand what all this means and help you access more consciousness of using your free will? Or are you watching something that is making you feel like you're depressed and that you need to be violent and you're in fear about the future of the world? And same with music. I mean, man, the music industry, especially with hip hop. You know, are you listening to stuff that makes you feel like you want to be violent towards your own brothers and sisters? Are you listening to stuff that makes you want to disrespect and degrade women? Or are you listening to stuff that makes you feel like you can be inspired and that you can be creative and inspire others to be better? That all falls in line with the MkUltra.
There was a record exec that I was listening to. I can't quite remember his name right now, but he said that he he stopped working in the music industry because they were taking the black population and forcing them to only do music that was violent, that would make you want to be violent, things that could send you to jail, and that's the only thing they were promoting. If you were to sing, rap, or whatever about anything other than certain topics, then they would not market your album at all. And that was the reason why he got out of the music industry.
Yeah, you can really see the evolution of human behavior through music mind controlling. You can see it. Like I can think of the type of music I was listening to in the 80s. I always loved the beat. And I always loved that type of music. And then until I had my near death, and then I started listening like ASAP Rocky. No, I couldn't go there ever again, you know, but that's where I used to go. And then it was like, woo, I can feel a whole level of demon in there. I had no idea. And it's like, oh, you like the beat, you like the beat. And then, yeah, you just don't, it gets you wrapped up in something, right? Like I'm definitely more in a focus, like bring me up here. Bring me up here, bring me in the flow, bring me in the heart, bring me in the higher planes of existence. And I'm feeling the freedom of expression coming out more in the conscious movement. It's beautiful to see it evolve again.
That just makes me think about what you just said there. It just makes me think about over since I would say like 2010s, like up, like anything. Well, not everything, but the majority of the mainstream hip hop and things like that. If you ask somebody what it was that they liked about the song, it's always the beat. It's always the beat. It's never lyrics anymore. It's always the beat. You know what I mean? And then what do? They control you with sound, vibration, and frequency. So why do you think it's only the beat that you like and it's only the beat that you listen to? It's because they're purposely putting that type of frequency or whatever it is. It's like if you don't like the beat to the song, but the lyrics are conscious or non-violent or anything like that, you notice they won't push it in mainstream. And then like I've studied psychology. I know I've studied marketing and everything like that. And I would say like one of the main reasons why I don't market myself as tough as I should or would is just the psychology behind it. Like you literally have to manipulate people's minds in order to get them to want to listen to your, and I don't want to do that. I want people to listen for what the message is, not just because I, made them think a certain way. And to me, that's my manipulation, and I don't feel comfortable doing it.
Yeah, when we're shaping our character based on like no one had this much insecurity in their own self until all these dragon eye pixel mirrored machines come about, and all of a sudden you think 100,000 people are watching you and that you're playing a game for them versus like, are you content in here? Are you feeling good with yourself? Are you inspired? Do you have vitality? And then it's like, let that be the thing. And then if you want to market and be out in the field, you're marketing vitality. It's happening naturally because everything works with resonance and synchronicity anyway. So you can see that subtle level of implanting going on. And a lot of people tell me, for example, with Instagram, a lot of women have admitted this to me, that it brought their self-esteem down so low because there's like this idea of what a woman is and what beauty is and what it looks like. And it's not it actually. And so everyone's, measuring themselves by this artificial measurement. Yeah. And it's really playing with people's securities about themselves and their belief in themselves and inadequacies and the whole game.
We got the screen share working.
Ashe. Yes, sister. No, for real. They have really saturated us with this like whole pop culture thing, and like what pop culture is, and reality TV, reality life, things like that. It's got people so reversed that they think, our natural life is the fake life, and that reality life is the real life. Like that's some
Someone
reverse
told me I was
psychology
living
right
in a
there.
fairy tale. Yeah, no, it's a reversal, and it's a need for the machine because the machine wants to keep itself around. And it's coming so deep. It's coming so deeply entrained in the consciousness that it's coming to idea of a planetary threat of these alien invasion UFO power plants taking up land and water to more further deeply experiment on humanity and control them. This is the time of breaking through the firmament and dodging this hijack and taking a planet back, from my perspective. And you can see how LSD,
Absolutely.
you can see how LSD has created, like, I remember when Steve Jobs died and I was reading about him. And see, the problem is we think that computers and AI are advanced technology when this is a divergent technology. Like, just to get that clear, like, we've had a much higher level of intelligence and access to a higher technology before these cell phones that were literally just weapons in your hand that you were willingly consenting to. Like, we just don't understand, but now we do. So it's a little different. But I worked for Michael Dell at Dell Computer Corporation for many years in Austin. And all these dudes started in college taking LSD. And then the next thing you know, we've got computer technologies and machines, and everything's just getting a little more like pixelated, if you know what I mean. It's getting less natural, more machine. This has been going on for a real long time. And LSD seems to be I know they're working on all kinds of different ways of using it and different variations of it, but really think about all the music festivals right now. And there's just like there's an official of everything, there's always a black market, right? So really all the drugs on our planet right now are an MkUltra mind control government experiment. They're the ones passing out the fentanyl. This isn't a mystery here. The Department of Defense created the internet. So like, let's just get real about, we're playing with these trickster energies that created, substances and computers and technologies. And even the word Mars stands for military auxiliary radio signals. And so we're talking about energy weapons, frequency weapons. They're invisible, you can't see them. That's why we have to learn our frequency field and like really move beyond this firmament. This firmament is an energetic gate. You could say it's like a calcified pineal gland, but I do see it like like an electrical grid that's kind of like graphene and it's hard to get through. So when we fortify the self and we purify the self, we can pierce that veil again and really become invincible to what's those laser beams that are being shot out there, and they're out there.
That was actually one of the experiments that Hitler was doing before the Nazis came. Before they brought the Nazi scientists over here, he was learning about the pineal gland, and that if you were to calcify it using fluoride, then it makes people more susceptible to mind control because they don't have that access to their higher selves. And if you notice, it was back in like the 1950s and 60s, once the war was over, that they started putting the fluoride and everything like that in the water and pretty much everything in toothpaste, telling you needed to clean your teeth and everything like that. Now there's fluoride everywhere, but back in the 1960s, they said that it was something that could damage this portion of your brain that connected you to the higher source.
Recommendation.
If you want to talk, you can come in here so they can hear you. Eduardo wants to share something real quick.
Everybody's in there.
Well, yeah, we're with Marcus,
So many people.
Cricket. I don't know.
Hello, everybody.
Put it
Thank you so
out.
much.
Put it out.
Hello.
Hola.
Hola.
Thank you so much. No, it's only one
This is the awakening.
recommendation is to put attention on the material. The Stanley Kubrick. Stanley Kubrick is a film creator, and he always talking in her film very deep code about MkUltra systems programs from the Second World, Ludwig program, satanic ceremonies, elite in New York, and yes, a very highly recommended. Watch out her material and movies or wherever you can find it from Stanley Kubrick. This is all.
Stanley Kubrick. Yeah, check out Stanley
He
Kubrick.
died. He died recently after this movie with was almost eyes closed.
Oh, The Eyes Wide Shut.
Yes,
Oh, he did that
he
movie.
exposed about satanic orgies and he's
Yeah, so they say that they took his life after he was exposing about the
also
globally satanic ritual ceremony, sex party type of shit.
yes, Odisea en el espacio. I don't know in English. It's like
This stuff has been happening forever.
fascinating movie talking about AI, mind control.
These wild ass parties. Talking about liberation, but it's really slavery. Oh, interesting. He looks like Gerardo. July 26th. Wow. So his birthday is the day of the Galactic New Year because July 25th is always the day out of time. July 26th, 1928. Interesting. You know what else was coming up yesterday? I know a lot of you probably know about the orphan repopulation or Tartaria. And then normally after you learn about Tartaria, then the orphan repopulation comes. But this video popped up and it was like tracing back your orphan DNA lineage. And Eyes Wide Shut, Nicole Kidman, this is crazy stuff. And they give her daughter to the society or something like that. Yes.
Sleeps, no, has an eyes closed. And he's sleeping and walking and
Cognitive dissonance. Wow, this is good because the 39, we were just in gate 39 and it talks about the tension of transcendence. Cognitive dissonance, the uncomfortable tension that exists when holding two conflicting thoughts in the mind at the same time. Or it is the tension that exists between the actions of the mind going against the actions of the heart or going against what we know to be true. Yeah, incoherence, inconsistency with our thinking when conflicting thoughts surface in the mind and cannot be reconciled. Yeah, you really got to let go of your attachments. This is how you start breaking through to the other side. One so easy paragraph changed my life forever in the book, Four Agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz. The intro chapter is called The Domestication Process. And it was so simple. I read that and I was like, you can't pretend nobody fell for it. We all did, down to your grandma making you clean your plate. You know, it's like, it was just talking about all the little programs from your awakening. And then like, honestly, oof, I can't even believe school exists. It's a military. The school system is a military program with the most poisonous food to boy. Like, how can we even deny what's really going on? They're fully surveillancing, fully investigating all pupils. They literally have you with fluorescent lights, trapped in boxes, like gate program. Okay, it used to be a little more hidden for a select few, but now, and then God knows what they're introducing in the books. I'm seeing all these videos, like getting the kids talking about sexuality in kindergarten. Like, this is a pedophiles game up in there. That's really what's going on in the fucking school system. That's like a shocker. That's offensive when you're caught in the system. That's cognitive dissonance right there. You're like, oh my God.
Yep. And then they, you know, they get these kids on all these pharmaceuticals and experiment on pharmaceuticals on them.
Yeah, the next thing you know, all of a sudden, all these kids have anxiety, stress, autism, and they're just pumping out. And then I saw there's some kind of benefit if you have foster children, that you get so much money extra per month from the government if the child is not performing well in school and is taking medications. Like, they're literally being financially incentivized with experimenting on these children. That's what's really been going on here, unfortunately. I know we have to come up with the empowering ways to move ourselves out of it. I know I was called to kind of march my way out of, like, the real activism was like waking up to it and being like, not going back in that. Let me see what else is out here. Let's come up on the edges and the fringe and kind of, where are we going in the future? What's it look like to navigate ourselves out of the machine back into a golden age? And how do we return to organic and consciousness? How could you have a ton of viewers and people interacting with you online, but you don't even know how to have a conversation in person because you're still hiding something? You know, like we can't preach something like all these ones that have been leaders on the online world making a ton of money off of people, but they're not sitting in the presence, acting like they're too good for it versus they've got shit to hide. That's why all of these kind of spiritual guru MkUltra programs, to me, it all falls under these categories. And then you go to the music festivals and they're working with the sound, color, light, electronic systems so hard and fast, and you can get any drug that you want now. It's not even like being worried about getting in trouble or something. It's all a part of the experiment. And then full recording the whole time and measuring brain waves and measuring your energy levels. And yeah, I mean, let's get real about every time we go into any kind of group space, we're consenting to experimentation, right? Just so we know.
Right.
Yeah, I don't resonate with a lot of music festivals anymore, that's for sure.
Yeah, they're definitely doing ritual there and people don't really have an idea. And I had my awakening at one, can't lie about it. Took a psychedelic for the first time, was having cosmic revelations, was feeling prophetic visions. And then the next year when I went, because I had elevated myself, I could start to see, I was like, oh, whoa, there's something a little tricky going on here. There's a demonic plane that's kind of bringing people down. There's like, there are other things going on here. Things are not as they seem. It's like you slowly awake, just like, yeah, you just slowly awaken into being like MkUltra's always been here, but we're just now seeing it. Or, I mean, some of us have been seeing it for a while, but this is also very new to a lot of people.
And then you see the award shows and everything like that. They're doing all of these satanic rituals and things like that at award shows, and they're literally giving regular people free seats to these demonic and satanic rituals just so that it looks cool to people on TV. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, let's not get caught up in chasing the world that's out there. Like I learned this when I went to see my family. I hadn't been to Texas in 3 years. When I got there, pretty much every kid in middle school was wearing Crocs and big sweatshirts in the middle of summer. And it was just kind of funny. I was like, okay, I can see what the vibe is right now. This is the line going through the kids this age. This is the trend right now. You can see it, especially if you have children or you've been a child, you know, when these little trends come out and you see how they're just like implanted in the field, and it's like the big production of the new thing that sells out, and they're testing our consumerism. You know, they're testing our response to yeah, I can't be sold. I can't be sold so deep. I don't even have a debit card or an address. I can't order anything, mail anything, ship anything. I just like unplugged. But it's easy and it's tempting out there, right? It's the World Wide Web.
It's so deep that like if you think about a product, you'll instantly start getting ads about it and everything like that on your phones, on your TV, on your lap, like everywhere. Like you don't even have to say it out loud most times. Like I remember when the price of eggs went up like really, really crazy, and I was just like, didn't even say anything. I just seen something and was just like, oh wow, really? And then all of a sudden I start getting all of these ads about eggs, and I'm like, what? I don't even eat eggs that much. I just had that quick thought, and the ads were everywhere. It's crazy.
Well, even this terminology, neurodivergent, is really to address very subtly to people how the machine is interfering with their brain. And the chip, the implant that doesn't need a surgery because it's already in there. And we shouldn't deny that. So we really do have to get real with the awareness around the transhuman agenda, where we're going with that, what you feel about that, if you're going cyborg, if you're not, like, just like being aware of the shift that's happening in humanity. Even though I've been like hesitant to say something about this bifurcation process, because I believe we can bring everything back into the one, and it doesn't need to be like a split of an organic and an artificial. But some people are already writing it off like half the world's going robots and there's nothing you can do about it. And then we're kind of like setting up our camps and rebuilding, and not in reaction to a destruction, but a proactive, like, kind of know where this is going, gonna turn this thing around. And just, you know, just as you can MK Ultra a dark agenda, you can MK Ultra technically a light agenda. Like, start talking about heaven on earth, start talking about the Garden of Eden, start talking about the light body, start talking about the rainbow light body, the rainbow diet, the purification, the rapture from the underworld, from the lower planes. Like, we just have to use new words, vocabularies, technologies. A lot of the ascension imagery and rainbow light body and Taurus field imagery is medicine, right? Because that turns on the field. You're like, oh wait, let me get out of all this black dark web, black and red dark webby black goo, and get myself back into those rainbow light colors and movement. Nothing's getting caught in my field, nothing's sticking to me. Yeah. And be in the world but not of it, you know, be able to infiltrate the system and not be controlled by the system. But we shouldn't deny what it's doing to our children. And we shouldn't deny that the predators are right in their hands in their rooms with their doors closed at any given moment. And it might be a robot. It might not be the creepy old man around the corner. And it also might be that. And I think we need to be real about what's going on in technology and what it's doing to our children. So I know I'm being called to kind of march it forward in a less technological reality. But I know it takes time because we're all dependent on this grid.
Oh shit. All right. So just a couple of last questions for everyone out there when it comes to this and becoming just more aware of how you can move in your everyday life and being in society. And number one is, how many of these tactics can you identify being normalized in your everyday life through society? And can you recognize if it's impacting the quality of your life? And then number two is, knowing that these strategies are being implemented, what can you do to change how you approach the control structures and the employed people that blindly follow the unconscious reinforce that causes divide and conquer schemes? So there's a couple questions to really think about. And then with that, I'm going to show you guys some ways to kind of retrain the light body as well, to help bring an understanding of how to rehabilitate and build ourselves into a new consciousness of our own being. Okay, so the Ka spirit body. So this Ka spirit body, when you focus on this is going to be focusing on your plasma. And the plasma is basically the morphinogenic field that goes around and through your physical nature. And this morphinogenic field is like the template that allows the coding and the blueprint system to form and materialize into your avatar. So one way and one strategy for myself that I have found very beneficial when learning about this information and navigating in this world is to not just focus on the material or to focus on the physical world. So while knowing that, yes, these things could be happening and that these things could be taking place, there is still also beyond and more than the material or the physical world. So when coming into self-realization, self-awareness through the studies of the energy body or the light body, and when it comes to the energy centers, the meridians, and our connection to the above and below and the within, I came across learning about the light body, or as they call it here, the Ka, spirit body. And as I began to go through practices of chakra balancing, as well as breath work, and going through conscious engagements of plant medicines like psilocybin, I was able to really start shifting a lot of the ways of my everyday habits. Some of those habits being abusing many substances multiple days a week, as well as selling substances and having no stability within myself and in my life, and many more lifestyles that I was living were no longer taking place through my habits and through my being, the more that I was becoming aware of balancing my light body. So as I began to balance the light body, I noticed that I began to naturally, from within myself, mentally and emotionally correct. And what I mean by correct is I would feel more stabilized inside myself. I would feel more connected to feeling empowered without needing anything outside of me. And I also became more clear and clear in my mind and clear of the chatter and the heaviness of the past or the future, but just really being present and just being present with all that is. So the more that I was able to focus on the light body rather than the physical world and my physical body, it actually started correcting the issues and the challenges and the illnesses that I was coming across when it came to my physical life. So when it came to being able to navigate through the awakening process of the ways of society and the world, one of the biggest keys for me was focusing on the light body and continuing to practice the strengthening and the fortifying of my energy field through chakra balancing, as well as yoga and nature, and having those conscious ceremonies with different plant medicines, including cacao as well. And if you guys have anything to share as well, I'd love to hear, what strategies and what type of ways have really helped you guys over the years when you were going through your stages of becoming aware and moving through your shifts.
So, with me, I was into like TV and like all of that stuff a lot as a kid, and then I took like media classes and everything like that. And one of the things that I learned is that they have to tell you the truth, but how you perceive that truth that they tell you is where they use the manipulation tactics. So that they'll tell you the truth in something and then twist it to make it look like it's something bad or something demonic. Like take superhero movies and things like that. For example, let's just since we're talking about MkUltra, let's take Captain America: Civil War. They're literally sitting there telling you in that movie, how they use MkUltra to control the minds of soldiers and things of that nature. So when you look at like fantasy movies and things like that, if you reverse, because they're using reverse psychology. So if you reverse that psychology, you can get to the truth. And that's a lot of ways that I found out some of the truths, and then we're able to verify it, meeting with you guys and everything like that, is just reversing their reverse psychology on the truth. You know what I'm saying? So like you see like Superman flying around, and okay, so humans have the ability to levitate. That's literally flying right there. you know, so things of that nature, like the Incredible Hulk, gamma radiation is what made him super strong and everything like that. There's literally a mental state called the gamma state that you can get in. It's like one of the higher states of consciousness. So if you just reverse the reverse psychology, it's kind of hard to explain, but that's how I was able to come into terms of what was going on.
You know, for me, taking everything from the outer to the inner, like not getting distracted by the outer, but just like being able to come into my center, stabilize anything, like emotional alchemy at its finest, like anything that came into my field and like jolted me up in any way, a topic, a belief system, a person, an energy, I would just like learn how to use my light body to generate a level of purification where like nothing sticks to me, nothing holds on to me. This is the fire of the phoenix. This is the dragon type of energy where like you're really fortifying yourself. You're not falling into reactor mode. You're moving, you're levitating, right? You take something that could be a little challenging and you propel yourself up. You levitate yourself up. You don't get dragged down. You don't fall into it, because any of these games are just working on your final weaknesses, you know, and your shields. And so you're just utilizing any friction, any tension, any confrontation to like bring it inside and like keep your heart open and put on those angel wings, levitate up. You bring it up, nothing can bring you down. This is how I started to experiment with energy fields, not take anything personal, you know, basic 4 agreements to personal freedom, like keep this really simple, right? I can get into belief systems about many things, guardians and galactic races. Yes? River wants to tell me something. Oh yeah, it dries fast. Yeah, so really everything is an energy game in the now moment. When we understand turning on this immortal technology and we start to really learn alchemy in the moment, that's real yoga, that's real technique. That's the only technique that matters, is that you can 0 point anything and you don't become a slave or driven by somebody else's laser beams. And so really to like, this is the warrior of light, actually, you know, and just keeping it into that shield of protection, that shield of light, keeping the pure heart open is how you work with this angel wing technology, this levitation technology. And then when you get pulled down for a second, it's like a trampoline jump, you know, you get pulled down and then you just, you jump up, you propel yourself higher. And it's just a game like that. It's very timeless, and you start to really learn light body mechanics, working with your energy body in this type of way, and not processing everything with the mind and the mental, because we're so logical and so controlled by the neocortex. Our real brain and the future brain of us is our stomach, our solar plexus area. And so one of the greatest mind control tricks is anything that talks you out of trusting your gut. Anything. That's a mind control implant right there. When your body says full fuck no, don't like this, don't like that, don't agree, don't consent, but your mind is like blah, 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 and it tries to justify keeping you from listening to that, that's an implant. That's a control mechanism. That's a real way in the now moment to start to realize like, oh my God, I'm overriding my truth. I'm overriding my body's intuition telling me, don't do that with this mind, but you gotta, and that is how we break through programming. So that's just one way to start to become a little more aware. Yeah, and the other thing is the calendar. That's the biggest mind control program that there is, actually. The limitation of our understanding of time, being locked in time, being frozen in time, being pressured by time, working for time, forgetting that time is an illusion. It sounds crazy when you first say it, but then when you start to play with that game of bending time and space, I mean, it eventually warped me into a world of no time so that I could live to tell and speak of this place beyond time, which is a place we all know and have remembered. This is like Back to the Future type of stuff. This is understanding mental mind control constructs, and psychedelics does this. It does help you break through the construct of time. And from that field, you can, I do believe in the responsible, safe use of psychedelics, but I also believe you need to be aware of like where you're getting medicine from and who you're sitting with, because if they've got a dirty astral body, they'll pass their things on to you. And so sometimes, and we don't put people in a high position because they're called a shaman or a medicine person or anything like that. I gauge the truth of someone by how I feel in their presence. It doesn't matter their title that they've been appointed. It doesn't matter their accolades, nothing like that. We're not here to bow down or worship anyone. And we can read energy fields. And as we hold a pure energy field, right, then we can invite others to see and feel a pure energy field like that. And it invites them up without like, you know, any contempt, nature, or judgment or anything like that. But we are being called to fly and hold the wings high. That is the way that we levitate out of the gravity of these mental mind control programs, and liberate ourselves from being controlled in these types of technological ways that we might not even realize how our emotional body is being played like a fiddle. And yeah. Anyways, thanks guys. It's so nice to be here with you all.
I like what you said about not putting people on, like on a higher pedestal, like unless you feel like their energy body, because you can have somebody like they do that all the time with like celebrities and things like that. They put them on this high pedestal, so you're looking at them as like a mentor, but really they're being controlled under a negative agenda as well. So you have to be, like I was saying before, very discerning on like who you're around, like what you're doing, like who are you, like go inside yourself and find out who you are. Like you said, like your gut, like if your gut is telling you like no, but your brain and society is telling you, well, this is how it is, this is what you have to do, this is the way you're supposed to be performing, then you're being programmed at that point. Like it's all programmed. If it doesn't feel good in your gut, then it's probably not good, regardless of what it is that you were taught. Because remember, everything that you were taught was a program. Since the day that you were born.
And we've been taught trust the gut like a million times, but still people don't do it. I mean, I've heard people that they knew not to go with this guy and then they got raped, you know, like whatever. It's like these things have, like, for some reason we still, that's the power of the control. You know, people in the religious organizations right now that are seeing things that are not actually pure and clean, they're starting to see the truth. There's a cognitive dissonance going on, like, oh, the pedophiles and the rapists are in the church. Oh, the church is full of Masons and satanic rituals. The LDS church, the Mormon LDS church, LSD church, is experimenting with satanic rituals with mind control substances in children and natives from indigenous tribes. Oh my God. Yet you don't want to accept the truth of that when you first hear crazy shit like that, right? That's a breaking through of the mind and like, whoa. So I say that because I don't think we can look away from this truth coming up on a planetary level. That's what MkUltra coming out is about. So we can all recognize we've all been programmed. Right. You know, and one of the, I did a podcast with my ex-husband. It was called, You've Been Programmed, Vibrate into a New Reality. And that's what we were bringing in. We were talking about all the programs of the system and the mortgage and the bills and the healthcare and the corporate jobs and the marriage and all of the things. And then we were talking about like building the vibration, vibrating yourself out of these old constructs and structures. But it's uncomfortable, right? Sometimes it's uncomfortable because you got to face some shit that you might want to hold on to, like your security, what you like, what you know, all of the things. It's like, so then you get excited with discomfort, right? And fear all of a sudden, because fear is usually like a trick to, like, you're almost there, you're about to break through something, you know, but it's like, no, talk him out of it. That's what fear is. And then you're just like, oh, fear is actually telling me where I need to be going. Now that's different than intuition. There's an intuition that says, oh, fuck no, don't do it, no way, right? But then there's also this thing where like you're being called to leap into a bigger, you know, you're being called into a frequency field and you got to leave some stuff behind. And the fear is going to be like, no, stay down here, keep me around, keep, you know, and there are gifts and rewards in that sacrifice. You know, when you lay something down, you lay an addiction down, a belief system down, a pattern down, and you're like, let me just leap into this void. Let me jump from the trampoline. Let me see how high I can propel myself from this, this energy game.
Yeah, I like how you said that. Like, there's definitely a difference between fear and intuition. Like, your intuition is not going to take you, it's not going to harm you. But fear is a programming that will stop you from doing something that might be best for you. So you definitely have to be discerning between the two. Like, whether is this fear? Am I just afraid of elevating, or is this my intuition saying that this is not for me? You know what I mean? So you gotta have that discernment of which is which. So I like that you brought that up.
Yeah, and you can ask a bunch of people for guidance and help and information or their opinion, but really, we got to learn how to trust ourselves. Close it out, Marcus.
That's a mic drop right there.
Definitely a mic drop.
Yep. And that's man, just all such great reminders. And I just remind us all too, you know, you think about the law of mentalism, and when we kind of like deconstruct to our if you want to say, I guess, like material perspective of how we're seeing ourselves in relation to life, then it becomes like, okay, you know, like, am I still identifying with my body? Am I identifying with my human nature as my whole nature? And then you kind of you zoom out of that, and then the one thing that I just try to remember inside my mind as a sovereign being is to just recall or remember that sovereignty in any moment. And with that remembrance inside the mind, to ultimately remember that we get to choose how this interaction or how this energy exchange or how this temporary materialized experience is going to correlate with me. And how I translate it is going to be how it assimilates for my mind, body, emotions. Am I going to attach to these outcomes? Am I going to attach to these groups, these identities, these thought forms? Or am I going to allow it all to be an experience? And I just remember that I am the being that is spawned from the Creator to experience and go through more experiences. So just those kind of reminders of mental sovereignty and free will of choice as an individual in the experience, and ultimately just holding that true for yourself. Say when you go through a physical ailment and the doctor wants to tell you that you won't walk again, you know, you choose for your own self. You know, am I going to no longer walk again? Or am I going to be one of those people that creates a story called a miracle, and I'm fighting the odds that the doctor said, and I'm walking again? That kind of mentalism right there. You know, you get those choices in this world. You can listen to an influence and allow that influence to dictate what you're going to do with your individual vehicle, or you listen, you process it. If it doesn't resonate, it doesn't resonate. If it does, it does. And then integrate. And without attachment, without judgment, scrutiny, just, oh, this is something to observe. This is information of the whole universe. What am I going to do with this? All right. And then you take action. And the last reminder too is this simplicity. If we can keep things simple in our field, simple in our routines, simple in the kind of energies that we're interacting with, then it can also leave us in a very easy space of sensitivity. And what I mean by that is we can feel what's coming into our field that is, you know, distorting or unpleasant, because we know what we keep in our field. We know what's in our circle, as they say. But when I say circle, I'm talking about your aura and what is mentally being kept in there, what is emotionally being kept in there, and what we're allowing from the outside world in there as well. Keeping that simple, you can then usually have that high sensitivity of, oh, okay, something is distorting what I have kept peaceful and centered here in this energy field. Wow. Thank you guys. Use your story to share your miracle. Ashe.
With that being said, I just want to plug a couple songs of mine real quick that all go along with this episode. Save the Children, Knowledge, Parts 1 and 2, and Brainwashed. Just check those out. All four of those songs kind of go along with this. So I'm just going to throw that shameless plug out there real quick.
Yes. Thank you, brother. Thank you, Phoenix. Thank you so much for sharing and giving this vulnerability with us today. Much needed.
So beautiful to hang with you all. Thanks. The Red Tribe, you guys are the initiators. Got the crystal serpent and the lunar dragon on the mic.
Yeah,
together, you guys make Route 66.
That's right. Oh, that's funny. Route 66.
Yeah, you guys are Route 66 together.
Thank you all in the comments. Appreciate you guys.
Where you get their kicks. Get your kicks
Oh
on
my
Route
God.
66.
On Route 6610. Holy shit. You want to know the crazy synchronicity of this? Okay, so today in the Galactic Maya, it's 210 white lunar dog. And so you guys plus me, like I have to, so I'm 144, you guys are 66, it equals, wait, am I doing this shit right? Yes, 210. Okay, so me plus you guys equals today in the Galactic Maya, like us as a trinity. So that's pretty wild. We wouldn't know that if we didn't know the numbers. That's how we start to understand there's a mathematics to this reality and synchronicity. That's how you know you're on the wave of synchronicity. When you don't get pulled down in the tricks of time, all of a sudden the synchronicity field comes in and there's nothing that isn't for you. It's like, and you just like work on your spin, keep yourself clean, you know, get back to the center. You might get out for a second, but it's like a 1-2 jab. And then you're just like, oh, okay, now the synchronistic, we are being synchronized. And it's super
You said the 1-2
mathematical,
jab.
actually. A 1-2 jab, yeah.
That's what it feels like, though. Left polarity, right polarity, back to the center.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
A little
like
wax
awesome.
on, wax off, Mr. Miyagi, Back to the Future, Karate Kid, like it's all of, you know, of course, we receive empowerment and excitement about the adventure of this reality through some of these shows, right? These superhero type of energies. And like, there is nothing wrong with that. You're either the victim or the villain or the hero. And, you know, obviously we bring it all back to the 0 point, but I think it's that heroic template that gets us excited for life, you know, gets us excited to be doing something, gets us together on the same page. We all start feeling this like excitement energy, this vitality energy. It's like, what do we do with that? How do we come together? How do we serve? How do we take our gifts and our art and our knowledge and our wisdom and our hardships and our histories and past and like bring them into service? That's what the white dog is all about. So we equal today's kin, the lunar dog, and it's about compassion, love, service, and loyalty. So we can like sit in this and be like, how can we be of service to humanity with our love, with our compassion? And then the lunar tone is about the polarity, the challenge. And so here we are today, like talking about this mind control and the level of weaponry that's been used and empowering our brothers and sisters to really rise up out of that. So anyways, I'm just getting excited about the mathematical synchronicities of it all.
That's awesome.
Man. Wow. What a beautiful space today. Well, as we get ready to close out, I want to thank everyone in the comments for connecting with us and sharing your energy. And thank you to Cricket and our sister Phoenix for hopping on and being vulnerable with us as well. And there's so much more that we could talk about around this topic, but I definitely feel that this did justice and it served exactly what it needed to for anyone out there that's open to receiving it. And with this, I just close us with the reminder of not observing this through a lens of fear or concern, but from a lens of acknowledgement and empowerment, in the sense of becoming conscious of something that, and what I mean by into your hands is, now that you're aware of these kind of ways and things going on, you get the choice more consciously with your free will to decide what you're going to do from here. And what I mean from here is, in this moment, you get to decide, am I going to continue to listen to this music that I know is aligned with what we've talked about? Am I going to continue to watch the programmings or the news that is aligned with these energies that make me feel scared or make me feel depressed or make me feel like we're trapped and we're never going to break out of a loop? Or am I going to, watch and listen to things that make me want to dance, that make me want to feel like I have a lot of love flowing through me, that inspire me, and things of that nature? And then also too, just thinking about your environment. What environments are you keeping yourself in? And what kind of influences are you allowing into your life? And with those influences, are you being intentional? Are you being intentional, and are you being conscious and present with yourself? in the way that you're processing, the way that you're acting, the way that you're interacting with others. So with that, the final thing is presence is power. So the more present you can be with your mind, body, emotions, remember that, you know, what is within your control is this vehicle and others' free will, and, you know, trying to teleport to the other side of the world to go save another country. I don't know if it's going to really happen. So, you know, I just advise presence, you know, being present and just remembering what is in our control and surrendering what is out of our control, as we say.
Yeah, this information isn't meant to like scare you or make you afraid, make you want to rebel. It's not to take it to a negative place and go out to get revenge and all of that stuff. No, this information is just so that you know what is being done to you, so that you can be empowered to, you know, make your own decisions and stop letting society and negative factions decide for you. You know, you are more than capable of making your own decisions and without anger or
Ashe. Well, with that, tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, I'll be live again, and we're going to be kind of moving into the next part of this sub-series. And this next part of the sub-series tomorrow, we're going to deep dive and talk about what it looks like to reclaim your sovereignty of your mind, body, emotions as a spiritual vehicle of the Creator. So join me tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern if you would like, as we step into more of our empowerment and more into our light, and how we can really step out of the rabbit hole of all of this propaganda and energies and things of that nature that are causing resistance, and really shed it and metamorphosize into a higher, more conscious and elevated version of our vehicle as we travel through this earth. So I'll see you guys then. And again, thank you guys all, and thank you to Cricket and Phoenix. Everyone, take care and enjoy this closing video, as it's just going to be a recap and a reminder of what this episode was about, MkUltra, and it's also going to talk about religion as well. So remember, again, this is for conscious empowerment and for you to make more conscious, present, and empowered choices with your free will. Ashe.
There was so much disillusionment coming out of the nation. I think that's where the real damage was done, because my family had basically withdrawn from mainstream society into this all-black society, thinking that it would be a better way of life. Indeed, we learned some lessons to help on a daily basis, you know, practical lessons about nutrition and practical things. The women learn to sew, learn to plan nutritious meals, learn to sit down with the children for homework. But the broader ideas that we learned, that, you know, white is good, and white is bad and black is good, they're evil, you know, we're gods, and then to come to understand that that's not so, that in this all-black society you can still feel quite disenfranchised. You can still feel ostracized. You can still feel in our all-black society, you had your rank and file here, and your leaders there with double standards. You had your corruption. You had the same dynamics that you have in any group of people. You had it in the Nation of Islam. My family didn't understand that going in.
And finally, what caused you and your family to leave the nation?
My mother left the nation about a year before Elijah Muhammad died. After Elijah Muhammad passed, his son took the organization toward Orthodox Islam, and most of my family followed him toward Orthodox Islam, which he told us that much of what his father had taught us was plain old not true. You know, the philosophies, the theology that he had created, his son explained the intent behind it. But now to bring people, because we had practiced these religious tenets with such intensity, now to find out that it was, you know, basically made up. For a lot of the people, it was a difficult transition.
When I open Message to the Black Man and I turn to page 1 and it says Allah is God, who is that mystery God? I'm seeing Master Farad Muhammad as a mystery God. Cool, he's certainly been a mystery to me for 53 years. I don't know who he is. He had many aliases. He came in many names, but God, oh, if he's God in person, brothers and sisters, we got to examine this. We got to examine this. They said it took him 42 years to study his own mission, and yet he came and stayed with us for only 3 years. 3 years and 4 months. You better think about it. And on his way to come to us, he stopped off and was tutoring some Caucasians and staying with a Caucasian family in mathematics. Think about it, brothers and sisters. We got to use our brain, brother. Master Farad Muhammad, W.D. Farad Muhammad. If he's an independent God, he came here, and according to what his grandson said, his grandmother said, Sister Clara Muhammad said when she saw him, he looked like poor white trash. This is her language, according to Jesus Muhammad Ali. I'm not making any of this stuff up, brother, and I know saying this is hurtful. But brothers and sisters, I'm just moving on. I got too much in my brains. I got too many things that I rolled over that it'll make you damn crazy, and I have to exhale and let it out. If he was God in person, brothers and sisters, he certainly was someone special. There's no denying that. But here's a man. If we wrote our Savior's letter, many of us who've written Savior's letter, we write to W.F. Muhammad. Here, an attorney in Michigan. Barrels of letters addressed to W.F. Muhammad. I worked for the United States Postal Service for 14 years, brother. And one of the crimes is if you open somebody else's mail. But here's mail that was addressed to W.F. Muhammad in Detroit. Huh? God didn't have his own address. He had it going somewhere else. God had someone cutting his hair, one of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's children. Huh? God had a secretary that was correcting his grammar. Huh? Think about it, brothers and sisters. Let's use common sense. If he was an independent God, we know he was ordered out of Michigan. So we got a God that was ordered out. We got a God that some say that a lost found went to strike him in the mouth, and he stopped the brothers from trying to retaliate because he said, leave him alone. He'll be a good one day. He wasn't a tall man. He was a fella who was just around the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's height. Huh? But we said he was God in person. I want you to hear this, brothers and sisters. Because, again, I'm not here to cause any confusion. I'm hoping to free the captive believer. Because we put our faith in a mystery God. A God that was told was going to live 400 years. And I have to ask the question, why? If he's going to live 400, where the hell is he? What is he doing? He is a mystery God. We have not seen him since 1934, and I haven't seen him ever. And some of you who say you saw him, you don't know why he disappeared and why he went away the way he went away. You better look at it. If he's God in person, he had a father, we were told about Alfonso. We were taught about his mother. We know he had a sibling, at least a sister. Think about it, brothers and sisters. But did he ever attend his sister's funeral? Where did they live? Where did they stay? Where was his father staying? These are some of the questions we should ask. Because they said, you put out table talks and say questions you would ask God. I want to know, brothers and sisters. I'm saying this to you today, brothers and sisters, and I'm going to go through this history. I'm going to go through this history for the last time, brothers and sisters, and except for these pages that I've finally decided to put down on a paper for a book, I'm not going to deal with this ever again.